Good morning. With the help of Hashem, we are learning today's three prakim Rambam Hilchos Nadarim prakim Yud Aleph Yud Beis, dedicating today's class to Ilui Nishmas Avi Moedi Harav Mordechai ben Rav Simcha Yitzchak, whose yahrzeit, whose fifth yahrzeit is today. May his neshama have an aliyah. Amen. Hilchos Nadarim Perek Yud is going to give us more details regarding the meaning of words. Yoim Echad versus Hayoim. As we'll see, as the Rambam spells out, ad v'lo yad b'chlal, ad, and ad b'chlal in the context of Nadarim. Don't forget that the rules that we have throughout the Shas won't necessarily apply to Nadarim, because by Nadarim, the big rule is by Nadarim, haloich achalosh and b'nei adam. We're going to have some sophisticated Nadarim that were made on Tanai, or on conditions in which the Isur and the conditions timeline are not aligned, as we'll give Gavaldic cases. Something is prohibited for a certain period of time, but the Tanai is going to be longer or shorter, and we'll see what effect that will have on the Tanai. Perek Yud is a relatively shorter Perek. Perek Yud has 13 halachas, beginning with halacha aleph. So let's begin with the hayoim. Hanoi deroi hanishba she'eni toyim hayoim. I won't taste anything hayoim today. Says the Rambam, Eino Asad Ela Ad Shetachshach Hayoim, in the context of Nadarim, does not mean a 24-hour period. It means until the end of the halachic day, until it gets dark. However, She'eni Toyim Yoim Echad, I will not eat for one day. Then Asad Me'es Le'es Mishas Nidrei. From that declaration, 24 hours. Now, Lefikach Hanoider She'eni Toyim Hayoim. As we just said, because hayoim means until the end of the day. Nevertheless, since if he were to say yoim echad, it would mean 24 hours. Most people could confuse hayoim to yoim echad. So midrabanan lo yoichal mishetachshach achi yishol chacham. Why? Why do you have to make a she'ela? You taka only said hayoim. And you're going to think that Yom Echad and Hayyim is the same. The Yoichel Nishatachshach. Shahadei ein kol ha'am yoidim hefresh shebein zeh lo zeh. Furthermore, halacha beis. Nadar she'eni toyim yoim. In between expression. He did not say Hayyim, means until the end. He did not say Yom Echad, which means 24 hours. He said Yoim. Here, the Rambam says, Hadei is a suffix. If it's like Kahayoim, or is it like Yoim Echad? And therefore, what's the din by a suffix? We should know the rule. The rule is that we have to be machmer, but if someone violated it, he won't get malchus. But when he just said the word Yoim without the hey, ain't no loikem.
The same din in practice as saying Hayom.
We have to practice Hayoim, correct. Very good. Now, we have to practice the Yom Echad, not practice the Hayoim.
When you say Hayom, you also have to practice Yom Echad.
That's right. Very good. Okay. Now, when a person says She'eni Toyim Shabbos Zu, what does he mean by Shabbos? Shabbos Zu means Shavua Zois, this week. Hareza also B'Shar Yemei HaShabbos. And by the way, what's included Ubeyoim HaShabbos? Even though in other areas we have the concept of that the week begins with Shabbos. Shabbos, my name is Varkan Kula Yoimin. The whole question in the Mishnah, if a person gets lost in the desert, they don't know what day it is. So is Shabbos the first day or Shabbos the last day? But in this context, this week means whichever day of the week you are, up until and including Shabbos. However, he will be allowed to do whatever it is that he forbidded upon himself through a neder. The moment it's Motzei Shabbos, the moment it's Halachic Sunday. In other words, even though 7 days did not go by, you said this week is over at the end of Shabbos. But if you say She'eni Toim Shabbos Achas, 1 week, then you have the same concept of, right, the Yoim Echad, which is Midoiraisa, not the Drabanans. Midoiraisa, 7 full days. Hareza Asu Shivas Yomim Me'es Le'es. If a person says Shabbos Tam v'loy Perish Le'achas v'loy Zu, Hareza Safik, and therefore Asu Shivas Yomim Me'es Le'es. The imachal Shabbos, ein aloika k'moishe be'arna. Similarly, halacha gimel, if a person says, just for example, she'ein shoyse chodesh zeh, I won't drink something this month, then if today is the first day of the month, if today is the 29th day of the month, the Isra is only until the end of this month. Also, only b'sha'ara chodesh, avol b'yoyim rosh chodesh, it will be mutter. Even though the chodesh is chassid. It means that you only took, this month could mean in this context 29 days. But here's the beauty. Not only does it mean a full month, but here we will always make a month into a 30-day month. Also, and here again, if he says chodesh tam, not zeh, not echad, also shloishim yoyim eis le'eis misafek. And if the person violated that after Rosh Chodesh, from Rosh Chodesh on, they won't be chayiv malchus. They won't get malchus. Halacha dalet. She'eni oichel basar shana zu afilo le'nishan men hashana ela yom echad ein asur ela oisa hayoim. And you don't have to say because yom echad b'shana chashav shana, which we have such a concept in halacha. Again, by the Nedarim, it's not about that. That's haloich achar loshen b'nei adam. When people say this year, that's what they meant. We're speaking about the Jewish calendar year. Ubeyoim Rosh Hashanah muter. And he's explaining, because Rosh Hashanah l'nedarim, what is Rosh Hashanah? Hu Yoim Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. Not everyone knows the first Mishnah in Masechtas Rosh Hashanah. And when you ask a Yid, Rosh Hashanah means Rosh Chodesh Tishrei. She'eni yochel shana achas. Then now here, unlike by the chodesh that we said, it's 30 days, no matter what. No. When you say Shana Achas, it means this Jewish calendar year, if it's a 12 month, if this year happened to be 13, in the Sabra Hashana, Asabo Bi Bura, or today is Yud Aleph Elul, then the neder goes into effect until next year, Yud Elul, whether you need it 12 months or 13 months. She'eni oichel shana. Here again, furthermore, she'eni shoyse yain shavuazem. You have to get used to this, right? We're ending the Shemitah year. We're going into Hakel year. That's how we count the years. There's a cycle of 7 years. So if I'm not going to drink during this cycle of 7 years, so I don't care what year you're up to, you're asur only b'sha'ar shenei hashavua. And this year, like Shabbos, very similar. Is part of the end of the week. The Shemitah year is not the beginning of the new. Shemitah year is the end of the old, the last of the old. Ubishnas Shemitah. Also, the Eina Mutar element of Shoshana Shal Matzoi Shvitz. She'eina Shoyse Yayin Shavua Echad, not Ze Echad, once this one cycle of 7 years, then also Sheva Shanim Gemurais, Liyim Liyim. Simple. Everything is consistent. Omar Yoivel Zeh. This Yovel, Asur b'sha'ar shnei haYovel, and during the 50th year, very much just like Shemitah is the end of the 7th year cycle, Yovel Shnas HaChamishim is the end of the cycle. All right. We have in the Gemara, we have a Tana that holds that the 50th year is also counted as year number 1. We don't follow that. Halacha vav. She'eini shoyse yain ad rosh chodesh adar. And the one who made the vow, this is obviously if the neder was made prior to Rosh Chodesh Adar. And if you made the neder during Adar, in other words, what he said is, my vow will be in effect until the end of whatever is called Adar. Adar Sheni is Adar.
It has to be that you made vow after Rosh Chodesh Adar?
In the case, im nadar at soif adar, if he made the neder on adar,
If you made it before.
Then if he didn't know, it might be different. The im yada shashanim moberes. Here we go. Shuki. Now, if he knew the year was moberes, even though he made the neder ad Rosh Chodesh Adar, since he knew it's a leap year, then also asur ad. Then asur ad Rosh Chodesh Adar Sheni. And I want you to know that's the sheet of Rabbi Meir, if you remember. That holds Adar Sheni is Adar Stam. Okay. Halacha Zayin. Ha'oiser atzmoi b'davar ad Pesach. Now let's go into the word ad. Right? Ad. Ad b'chlal, ad v'lo ad b'chlal. What does it mean in the context of Nadarim? Whether he said the words ad lifnei haPesach, until before Pesach, which is clear, right? Until before means v'lo ad b'chlal. Even if he didn't say the word lifnei, he said until Pesach. You made the vow prior to Pesach. Eina asur ela ad sheyagia. That's what it means by Nadarim. That's what we call ad v'lo ad b'chlal. But if he uses the words ad sheyihi haPesach, Rabbi Yaakov, not until, while it is Pesach. In English, it's clear. While it includes Pesach. Amar ad hakotzit, until the wheat harvest. If he says until the grape harvest, ad habotzit. Oy she'amar ad sheyihi, while it is. Oy habotzit, while it is. In all of these cases, eino asur ela ad sheyagia. Now, so says that Rambam Zaklal. What's the biur? Why do we say over here always v'lo yad b'chlal? Kol shezman kavua. That's the key. If there is something that's fixed in a time, v'kava v'nadar adav. Guys, the word adav is not such a common word. Adav means at sheyagia zman. Pesach has an exact fixed time, and you make it before that fixed time. Then eno asur ela sheyagia. Clear, you only meant up until and not including. Only, but again, if you say the words ache yihiyeh, ache means as long as it is. As long as it is, again, it's fixed. Then it also includes that time. However, when it comes to harvesting, kol she'ein lo zman kavua, it's not like Pesach. Pesach, my friends, begins on the 15th. Right here, more or less. Kigoin zman hakotzir v'habatzir. Here we say otherwise. Bein shenadar odav, whether he said ad shehigi azman. Ben shenadar, even if he uses the words while it is. Right, mamash, guys, you think while it is sounds like ad b'chlal. Eino asur ela ad sheyagia. How great is that? In other words, there's such a umdana that whenever there's no zman yodua, people don't make vows when they connect it to a time and it's not yodua. So, and by the way, when does it begin? It's also not clear, at least until it begins. But not to enter into that time when it's not known, because there isn't a fixed time, people don't think that way. And what did we learn yesterday? This Gavaldik Klal, that you follow intent. You can't go against the words. Not the exact meaning. So here, the precise meaning of the words sheyihi means while it is. No, that's not the intention by anything. She'en lo zman kavua. Beautiful. Halacha tes. Ha'oser atzmai b'dover adakayitz. We just spoke about kayitz. Kayitz actually means fig harvest. Fig harvest is approximately from the end of Tammuz until the end of Elul. Just, it's good to know that. Why do people call the Zman HaKayitz? Summer. Kayitz doesn't mean summer. Kayitz means the time, right? There's Katziv, there's Batziv. You know, it's in by us, for every product, there's a different name of the harvest. By Yidden, by Lashon HaKodesh. Kayitz means the time, and it's not fixed, more or less. And we learned that figs is the only thing you don't cut it with a knife, and you don't cut the same tree at the same time. The same tree, whenever it's ripe. You're constantly harvesting it. So then, from when people begin bringing in the baskets of figs, that is when you also. So first, in other words, they ripen at different times. We already established in halacha ches that if ein lo zman kavua, it never includes the time proper. But when does it begin? You measure it from when the people begin bringing in the baskets. That's if you say ad hakayitz, right? If you say ad hakotzir, and there's another nuance over here, and not ketzir sa'odim, because whenever you use the words kotzir stam, the chashav of wheat, the chashav of grain from the 5 grains is chitim. If you would have meant sa'odim, you would have specified ketzir sa'odim. Very good, which would have been Shavuos, even though you could say that, Sa'odim, we know Sa'odim is ready before Chitim. Sa'odim is Pesach. The chitim is more connected to the shtei alechem. It's done later. It's about the stam. The no shame levai means chit. Perish v'amar achi yavoid hakayitz. Oh, that's not achi yir. Achi yavoid until the kayitz passes. So now what? So now Ataka has to include, here you said so clearly, the whole time of the harvest of the figs. Okay, what's the end of it again? There's no clear date. Just like the beginning is when the baskets, what's the end? When the majority of the people fold up the mats that they had set aside upon which to dry them. There was no refrigeration then. These were the classic products that people would leave out to dry. Both the ta'enim and the anavim, to make out of them both geroigeres, right, dried figs, and samukim, and dried grapes, which are called raisins. And hakol has to do with where was your location, because it varies that much, especially when it comes to the figs. Really, it varies when it comes to wheat, but there, mamash, it's from the end of Tammuz to the end of El, which is talking nowadays. What's Kayitz? Here in America, Kayitz begins right after Shavuos. But in a good yeshiva, it begins at the end of Tammuz. Then you're in the 9 days. There's nothing you can do. Then comes Man Elul. We make up a little kayitz. But that's as it's. Halacha yud. Kaitz. Hadeshin of the babiko. So the nether was made in a beacon. And then you went up to the mountain. I don't care that you are right now on the mountaintop. We look. That's the key. Where did you make the vow? And all these, what does it mean? Until the rain. You meant until the time, the season of rains, which is in Eretz Yisrael, interesting. Even though we learn from Masechtas Tainis that would be that the people begin fasting earlier. From Zayim Marcheshen, there's I think Shvibe Machloikes Tanoim. That's what it means in a Dorim. That's like why when do we begin the real fast days for everyone? Okay. Higiyas Manak Shamim. Now, when you made a vow, you said the words Ad Hageshem. It doesn't mean that you're vowing to prohibit only until the rain actually falls. You meant until the season of rains. And therefore, once that time came in the Holy Land, now what happens if the rain began falling? So here's a chiddush. Notice we're playing around a bit. We're saying, okay, you meant until the Zman of Kshamim. And after the Chodesh Kislev, you're no more bound. But if it actually rained Yud Zayin, you said Ar Hageshem, and it's not just because it rained. If it would rain at the end of Tishrei, we would not say that, because it is a Zman of the Kshamim. Now, the Im Amad not Ad Hageshem, but Ad Hageshamim in English it means until it rains, not until Shmuli the rains. You hear that? Till the rains means the time of the rains. That's the intent. Until it rains means taka. Until it rains. But even that, it cannot be a rain that falls in a very anomaly, a very unusual time. Which is Be'eretz Yisrael from the 23rd of Marcheshvan Be'elef, when you say the words Adak Shamim. Now, my vow, I'm bound by this vow until the rain will end. What's the end? Again, Hagshamim doesn't mean the physical rains. It means until the rain season ends. So or in places that are Kamaisa, because after Pesach, it's no longer the time of rains. And again, clearly, totally, but Bahamakam Bahazman. In other words, if you're living in a different country, if you're living south of the equator, we'll have a whole different dates.
When does the December 4th come into play?
December 4th has to do with the season of winter, which is not relevant over here, interestingly.
Why does it say Achiyah?
If you said Achiyivsiku, stops? No, we don't say that. You have to remember Tainus. No, there has to be something over there that the Rambam understood that until the end, until Pesach is done. I know that. Okay. How does it fit? Okay, so Danny is pointing out how does it fit with the 60 days, right? How does it fit with the 4th of December? And also Rabbi Yaakov is saying that we begin that we change over, even in the Shemona Esrei, even in the She'elah. No. Pesach, we begin on the first day of Pesach.
Could be for Chutzlar.
No, Beretz Yisrael. Okay.
No, but that's Danny's point. If you're in America, so then Arak Geshama meets until December 4th.
Okay, you're right. Danny's right. Yeah, correct. I think Shabbat b'chutzlar, it's not true. Not in America. In bubble.
When we say the same time about the brother.
That's a whole rush. That's a whole different topic. Not to make Eden groups,
Right.
but really, theoretically, and by the Adanim, I don't know if you would say that. By the Adanim, we would make groups because that's haloich ach haloshami and moisa makamaisa's man. Where you are, America would not be. Yeah, halacha yud beis. Mi shehidar esishtei b'mar cheshven. Now, guys, it's going to get very sophisticated. These last two halachas, they're really great. You're making a vow. We already spoke about people that make vows. There's something that's asur, and then there's the t'nai that activates it. We had a few days ago a possibility where the t'nai is now and the isur is later. There we say it's less problematic because if you break the t'nai, we don't say you're going to break the isur. We already had that concept. People know to keep away from the isur. But if you do the isur now and you leave the t'nai for later, it's more problematic because since later you're only breaking the t'nai, people might not keep away from it. Don't even do the isur now. But the focus in these last two halachas are not about which one came first to the point of that the time of the t'nai is not the same of the time of the isur. Look at this case. A man makes a neder against his wife. Right? You may not benefit from it, but he's saying like this. He makes it in the month of Mar Cheshvan. The isur is to her, the isur is that she cannot benefit from him from now, from Mar Cheshvan, until Pesach. But what will activate the isur? It's a t'nai. The activation is if you'll go to your father's house from today until Sukkot. The activation, the zman of the activation goes beyond the zman of the isur. Now, you have to understand something over here. What does this guy want from his wife? Let's get his intent. He does not want her to go until Sukkot. That's going to be key. Even though that if she'll do that, the punishment is you can't have enough from me from now until Pesach, but his intent of what he wants in the context of don't go there will be very key to understanding the halach. Now, miyad means even though she didn't go yet, but if she's going to go, then her having hana now will be awesome. We already had that before. All right? So she cannot have hana right now. Immediately.
I get from now, but until Pesach.
So now, let's go slowly. Now, if she went before Pesach, right? So she activated the isur. And he gave her hana, she had hana. So by the way, when the Rambam says hareu mahana, he's focusing on the husband giving her, because we also learned another rule, Shmuley, very important, that even though I have the ability to prohibit you from my stuff, you're taka asur, but if you did not say the vow, you're not going to get malchus. So the Rambam just wants to give the case of malchus, like malchus would be, is that he actively gave her hana. So then it also means that if she would have hana without him doing it actively, she would be violating the vow.
So he gets malchus.
Yeah. Another detail. Correct.
The vow is that she can't have hana, but then he
gave her hana. Yeah, but I'm saying that nuance is only needed for the malchus. If you want to take out the malchus aspect, then Rambam also is saying that if she had hana, she activated the condition before Pesach. Okay, so then the isur goes into effect. So
why is she not getting malchus?
That's the general rule that whenever I make a neder, if you did not say the words and you did not say amen, even though I have the power to ask my things on you, you're not going to get malchus because you never said it. So he is speaking. Okay, now 1 second. Avara Pesach. Now this is the chiddush. Guys, the Tanai was activated before Pesach. The isur, he only said until Pesach. But why did he say if you don't go until Sukkot? Because we understand that he did not want for her to go until Sukkot. So midrabanan, we extend the isur. Avara Pesach, afal pisha halachatnai. Halachatnai means that the zman here, it means the time of the isur passed. Hareza asur linoik chulen benidroi ulahanicha shetelech v'tehana. But since she had Hana, she broke. Even though the Isur is only, you can't have Hana until Pesach. We extend it midrabanan. We extend the Isur until the Chag. Elonoig ba Isur ad Chag k'moishen nadar. K'moishen nadar means his intention. He should not be mahana her until Sukkos. Af al pi shotol haneder be Isur zman she'avar. V'chein chocha yoytze bozeh. Now, if she went after Pesach, Eina asura melohanoisloi. In other words, if she did not break it prior to Pesach, if she did not have, this last clause is that she did not have Hana before Pesach, he was not Mahana her before Pesach. Now that Zman passed, we don't extend it, even though she went, even though he didn't want her to go. But if she already broke it, in other words, she broke it before Pesach. Even though he only said the Isur is until Pesach, that's the Chiddush here. We extend it, not Malchus. We extend it until Sukkot. Now, Halacha Yud Gimel, Allah, what happens in the opposite? The disalignment is in the opposite direction. The Isur should go into effect until Sukkot. You cannot benefit from me until Sukkot. What is the Tanai? If you'll go from now until Pesach. So first of all, Asura lehonis miyat, right? But the im halcha lifnei Pesach, same thing. And if she went, she activated the Tanai, and then v'nimsa mahana ois, and then he's giving her hana. Was areza like va'asura bahana yosei, and then since the Tanai was activated, until when does the Isur go? Adachag. However, here's the word umuteres leilech lebeisavia mishigia Pesach, because he only said that the Isur is until Pesach. No, it's in Halacha Yud Beis, even though the Isur was shorter, we look at what he wanted. He did not want her to go, right, until Sukkot. So if they broke the Tanai before, we extend it. But if in Halacha Yud Gimel, what doesn't he want? He doesn't want her to go until Pesach, then we will never extend the Isur. That's the difference between Yud Beis and Yud Gimel. Okay, great. Moving on to Perek Yud Aleph. Perek Yud Aleph and Perek Yud Beis today. What can I say? It's such a great opportunity. People, we learn Chitas. We should learn Chitas. Chumash Rashi, Parshas Matos. The Rambam is amazing. When you learn this in the Gemara, it's very hard to put together the whole picture. We're going to begin. First of all, the beginning of Yud Aleph is easy. That even though normally you become an adult, when you become a machlokes b'shamay b'sil, just to make that clear. We paskin a boy 13 and a girl 12. This is going to be a big exception where you have a halachic din of an adult to a point prior to the 13, prior to the 12. That's called oinas hanadorim. Oina means the time, right? We use this word in Paras HaMishpacha. There was a period of nadarim which are not consistent with the rest of the Torah. We're not saying that you'll be chayiv punishments, but there is a concept called mufla hasamach leish. We'll see how these words apply. There are two phases to that. Number one is 1 full year before, if you understand the meaning of a neder, you will be bound by your neder. We're not speaking about that if you violated it, you're going to be punished. No, but you'll be bound by it. Or if you made a neder on your stuff, you declared something hegdish, another adult will be chayiv me'ilah because you, the minor, made, if you understood nadarim. And then there's another detail, a mufla hasamach leish, and that is that if you are 12 or 13, but we know that you don't have the base of others. Now, I know that we had this already earlier on. For certain halachas, you rely on the chazaka, but for certain things, you have to make a bedika. Here, even though you don't have the two sa'aris, you will also be, you're 13, you're more bound by your nadarim, as we'll see. In other words, the beginning is that there's a concept called oinas hanadarim, which makes the age of one's ability of affecting something which you would think only an adult can affect, which only a cotton cannot make a neder, it's ineffective, it will be effective. That's the beginning, that's simple. Where it gets fun is that the Torah gives the power to a father to be mefer the neder of his daughter up until a certain age. The Torah gives the power to a husband to be mefer the nedarim of his wife. We'll see that more in the next chapter. It has to be either inui nefesh or dvarim shebeino ilubeino. And then the most exciting will be a woman that's engaged. She's a nara hameurasa. Nara hameurasa means both the partnership of the father and of the chassan of the arus to be mefer for neder. And there'll be all of these cases. She makes a neder, and then the chassan passes away. Sometimes we say nisroikna la'av, that the power now is fully given back to the father. Just like if she would not have been engaged, a nara, like a ketana, is someone who the father can be mefer, he can be mefer. And there'll be gavaldic cases where, since she made it while she was engaged, the father now also needs the partnership of an arus. Sometimes, if something happened and the neder became so weak, if what's left over is so weak, there's nothing, it's not enough for it to be given back to the father. Now, maybe if she gets engaged again, the second arus can now join the father, and all of these types of cases that will be all in Perek Yud Aleph. Perek Yud Aleph has 26 halachas. Let's begin, my friends, with halacha Aleph. Zok the Rambam. Katan ben shteim esrei shana v'yom echad. This is a boy. He's 12 years old. 12 years old. Yom echad means that if a person is born on Yud Aleph Elul, if you think about it, the year ends on Yud Elul. But we don't mark birthdays that way. We mark the birthday on the same day. That's already the first day in the new year. That's called Yom Echad. Ktana bas achrei achas esrei shana v'yom echad, which is a full year prior to Bar Bas Mitzvah, if both Shvuah or Neder, Bein Nidrei Isur, Bein Nidrei Hegdish. We don't say that, oh, they're Ktanim. No, they entered the Oinas Hanadorim. What do we need to do? Boitkin Oisam, V'sheyalam Oisam, Im Yodu L'Shemi Nadru L'Shemi Hegdish V'nishbu. Do they know to whom? And if they know, Nidreim Kayamim V'Hegdesham Hegdish, wow. On the other hand, Im Yodu Ein Devareim Klum. And then you go into the stories we have in the Gemara. Were you manader to the sun? Right? So he answered, no, God forbid. He says, I was manader to the creator of the sun. Well, do you understand that he made a neder to God Almighty? Now, what's amazing is that we have ups and downs. If someone made a neder when they entered the 12th year and we were avoiding them, they understand. Most our kids of 6-year-old understand. The guy understood, she understood. We don't say if they understood when they were 12 in one day. For sure, when they're 12 and a half, they understood. Every neder they make that year, we have to ask them regarding, did you know to whom you made the neder? And even if the neder that they made earlier in that year was effective, if now the current response is not good enough, then they're not bar mitzvah yet, it won't be effective. Kate said, for example, they were mamish, they just entered their oinas hanadorim. And they knew, and we pass in this kind nidram. But if they make another neder prior to bar bas mitzvah, even if they made it mamash at the end of the year, day before their bar mitzvah, we don't say, hey, if what they made in the beginning of the year was effective, about that, we don't do that. You have to ask him every time. And because that's the way of the life. Could be, today you were more sharp, and tomorrow when you made the nether, you were who knows where.
Does that include the previous nether?
No, we don't do that. That's a chiddush here. We don't say that since you made a nether and we already included you b'aynas hanadorim, you keep that status. You don't keep that status until you enter the real adulthood. Now, if you're going to say Yadu L'Shemi Nadar, then you would think wrongfully. Or maybe a kid that is 6 years old, if he says, I know God and I made a nether for God, doesn't work. It's only from that age, only from 1 year prior. But now another chiddush is like we mentioned in the intro, for many dinim, right? Even you're 12 or even you're 13, if you don't have the physical body maturity of at least having 2 pubic hairs, you're not an adult. Here we bechlal don't need that. And she's now already even if they say I don't care anymore. You're an adult.
So if you're under 11 or 12,
never.
Over 13, always, or 12, always.
Yes.
It's an in between.
Yes, they got it. And more than that. Now the chiddush here is not only that if you're 13, let's speak about a boy, you're 13, your neder is a neder, even if we know you don't have the 2 sa'aras. That's also called mufla hasamach le'ish, because from all the other dinei Torah, they're not yet an adult. First of all, it's good to remember that most people, when you say what's mufla samach leish, they only know the first answer of 12 or 13 a year before. 12 and 11. Boy, 12. It's more than that. It said even though you don't have two sa'aris, if you became that age, even though you don't know to who you made the neder. Wow.
So I'm saying that the two hairs doesn't come into play here.
That's right. At all. Very good. The zuhi. Whenever we speak about the time of Nedarim, that's all we are referring to. Halacha Dalet, Hoyel v'higiu l'shnei hagadolim. The shnei hagadolim means not the body personalized, two sa'aras or not. The age, for a boy 13, for a girl 12. Nidreim kayamim. I don't know why the Rambam is repeating this, but he's repeating this. It's not repeating. We have to understand he's adding something. Even though there's no simanim. And therefore, when it comes to all of the other dinei Torah, they're not gedolim. And the Rambam adds that's not a rabbinic. And that's referred to mufla hasamuch leish. Gemaldik. That what? Hegdesh hegdesh nedarim nedarim. Again, nidre isu nigdei hegdesh. Now, hold on. If you're not an adult, let's speak about punishments. So, afa pishin edrem kayamim im chilulu nidram oy nishba'u. I like these words, not the sheker. V'hichlifu. That's the way people, when the dishonor stays, I just made as an exchange. The Rambam says they're not going to be like it. I know punishments has to do with what is considered an adult for all the other areas in Din Torah, and that is even though you're 13, if you don't have the two sa'ares, you won't get punished. It has to be but if you were magdish something and you're only a mufla samach leish, but you were magdish your item to God. If an adult who is an adult is going to come and have hanad, he'll get malchus. That's the word. You won't get punished, but your hegdish is hegdish. Not midrabanan. If it would be midrabanan, he would get maybe makas mardus. No, you get malchus midoiraisa. Okay. Now, okay, guys, from halach above until the end of Perek Yud Beis, it's amazing how we become clear in the whole concept of hafaras nadarim. Let me add one thing that's important that I have to correct a mistake that I said. Hataras nadarim is retroactive. Hataras nadarim has to have a justification. Sometimes the Beis Din gives him a pesach. Hafaras nadarim, we said correct. You don't have to have a justification. Even if the vower, the girl, the wife, wants to keep their neder, the father and the husband in certain times has the power to be mefer the neder. But there's one key. Hafaras nadarim is mekano lahab. It's not going to get now, just to know that. I think I said they're both there. Hafaras nadarim is mekano lahab. Taras nadarim, you're oikeret amafrei. Remember. Okay. Halacha. Hamed varam amurim, that what? Shabbos shteim esri shana v'yemechon nidurei kayamim. We made as a blanket statement. Not so simple. That's B'Shaloi Hoysa B'Reshus Av. She's neither B'Reshus Av. How can a girl that's not yet a begettes not be B'Reshus Av? I'll give you an example. That well, first of all, she got married. That will be okay. She got married. Not Mikudeshes. She had Nasuyin and she got a divorce. Once that happened, she's no longer B'Reshus Av, even though she's not yet a begettes, or when she becomes a begettes. So whenever Naros kicks in, which is not just 12 years old, 12 years old and 2 pubic hairs, then you count 6 months. After 6 months, like we learned before, she becomes a begettes. So if she's not neither B'Reshus Av nor B'Reshus Habal, again, we'll see more details that the husband, in certain cases, also has the power to nullify her vows. That is when we make this blanket statement that once, she is a Gia Lo'oinas Hanadarim, so then her vow is a vow. But Afilu higdila means she's 12 years old and she has 2 sa'aras. She's chayiv, she's a bas mitzvah. She's called now a nara for the next 6 months. Yeah, nara, very clear. Nara, then now we're introducing the father. A father has no restrictions. A husband cannot be made for all of the nadarim. Either only inui nefesh, we'll learn this soon, or dvarim shebein noi lebein no. But a father has the power if he wants. Mefer kol nidorah b'chol shavuos. But only for the day. Now, even though the Torah speaks about the day she made the neder, Chazal understand it doesn't mean the day she made the neder. It means the day that the father became aware of it. He only has that day.
So we also say that you don't necessarily become a nara when you turn 12.
That's correct.
So is he saying
only halachic nara? Very good. And even though she's already making the darim, let's say since she's 11, but until she has neither, if she's either under the Av or under a Baal, then you can't say her neder is a neder, and then you have to add this detail. That's when you introduces it, because then there's a koyach to be made for it.
This is until she's any age.
Until she's a begettes, or until she's married. Good. Let's halt cop. This is the seder. Avia mefer kol nederel v'chol shvuos tishav b'yom shamai, the day that the father is aware of it, as it says in Parshas Matos, kol nederel ve'esarel shall not stand, because the father has the power of being many. Guys, heini means he has the power to withhold it. And as we'll see later, against a very good lashon. It's not the oiked l'mafreya, which is hatara, which is the whole Torah Shabbat Peh. There's no word hatara in the Torah. Mefer means that he stops it. He can be made for it. And he does it by saying mufar. He can do it by saying the words batel. He can use it by saying the words eins and neder. But he has such a koyach. Now, halacha zayin. You see, David, slowly. Ad masai ho av mefer. Until when? Guys, before oinas hanadorim, there's no need. So we know from when. From when she's able to make a neder. That was the beginning of the chapter. Until when? Whenever she becomes a nara, which is minimally, she has to be 12 years old, and she has to have the two sa'aros for the next 6 months. Once she becomes a full-fledged, mature woman, Eina made for long. Is just like a neder that's made by Alamana or made by a Gerusham. Shenamar Bahem, the Torah writes explicitly, then Yakum allowed. It doesn't mean that she's unable to do Ataras Sandarim. Of course she could. But then you can make the statement, her neder is a neder. But Rambam tries to point out, you can't say when she's still the Rishus Aviyah, her neder is a neder, because really, her neder is a neder if the father will hear and not be mefer. That in itself is called he's being Mekayim.
So even after Bagaris, if she lives in her father's house, he can be...
No, he cannot, as we said. Achativkot. The Rambam is writing it clear. Halacha ches. Now, we said the father has the power to be mefer. The husband has the power. Even though that his koyach is more restricted, as we'll see in Perek Yud Beis. But now we're not focusing on the details. We're focusing from when Misha Teikanis L'chupa. People are going to jump. What are you talking about? From when she gets engaged, yeah, we know that. But when she's engaged, the husband can never be mefer by himself. The husband always needs the partnership of the father, always, when she's a nara ha'me'urasa. We say the words nara because if she's a ketana, she can't make a neder. She's a begeres, then she yotza mirashus ha'av, and the chassan cannot be made for her because the chassan, the oros, can only be made for b'shut v'sa'av. So if the father cannot, for whatever reason, then it stands. Another detail we're going to learn today, I love these rules, that a neder she made while she was a kala, and then she gets married, and when she's married, the husband has the unilateral power to be made for an adarim, only for an adarim she made after she got married.
So she comes in with a neder.
She comes with a neder, he cannot nullify it. She can do it, she has to do Hataras Nadarim. The Hafaras Nadarim is from when she made a vow, and when she entered the chuppah, which means not from kedushin. Misha tekanis lechuppah, and v'hu mefer lo'olam. When does he have that power? Unlike the father, whose power ceases when she becomes a begettes, as long as they're married. Which means either until he gives her a get, and the get comes to her hand. No need to say when she's an almana because he's not around to be made for the nether. Oysam they go to Eshes misafeg. What happens if there's a get misafeg? Then lo yafer lo. No, some get al tanai, right? Pashit, and the time was not yet fulfilled. Obviously, oila achar zman hareza gitech, right? But you're only going to be divorced some 30 days from now. During that time, lo yafer time, even though the get was not chal yet, he lost that power. And then he says, and really, the husband is alive. How do we know that he came back? Or something similar. Something similar means that she gets a get, she marries another man. And then halachically, we discover that the first get was not kosher, which is why Bati Dinam don't give gittin today, because you don't want to have a Talmud Chacham come and invalidate the get. But she's married to someone else, and we discovered the first get is batal. with all of the penalties now that Teitze Mizu, Umizu, etc. At that moment, ain't not the Baladishan, not the Achlim Nefir Nedorel. Now, another detail, if she got into a marriage that's also inside of love, Kedushin is Chal, because the Rambam paskins that only when there's an Isur Kodesh is the Kedushin not Chal. And the Heifen Nidoreha, Hadei Elu Mufarim. In other words, just because the marriage was forbidden, this right of the husband, if there's a marriage, chuppah, then he has the koyach to be made for dinner done. Now, so we had about a girl, only the Rishus Aviyah. We spoke about a woman, only the Rishus Baila. Now, the ikir from this Pedic will be from here until the end. The Na'ara, not as needed, because prior to her Naros or Oinas Hanadorim, she can't make a neder. Not as needed because once she's a Begeres, the father has no Rishus in her. But she's a Nara that's Me'oirasa. If she would be a Nara that got married, when she gets married, then the husband has the unilateral power in those types of Nadarim to be made. But now that she's a Nara, but she's only engaged, so the rule is there needs to be a partnership. And you need both. And the im hefer ha'echad levadoi eino mufar. Hefer habal levadoi, and the other al nidra koydem shiyafar ha'av. Then, even though she was not allowed to, she won't get malchus. You know why, guys? Here begins the beauty. When the husband is mefer, even though we need a partnership, he already weakens the neder, and her neder becomes asura aleh k'moi chevra chatzi shir. And by the way, the Rambam doesn't have to spell it out. The same thing would be, Danny, if only the father was mefer. When you need two people to be mefer, the Rambam is saying, even though you need both, if one of the two, the Rambam is speaking about the husband, we'll see reasons soon in a moment. So then even though the neder is not mufar, but it diminished, it weakened the neder. This concept of one of the two already weakening the neder will be extremely important for many other halachas, as we'll see. She made the vow. She's an arusa. You need both of them to be mefer. And now the others dies. Now that the others dies, she fully returns to the Rishus Aviyah. The chol shetidoy and any nether she makes now, it's going to go from simple to very not simple. So what happens in the other direction? She's engaged. The father dies. And again, when did she make the nether? The nodra achar moisoi. You would argue, well, now she's only under the jurisdiction of her chassan. She's never under the full jurisdiction of her chassan. She only goes under the shusay when she goes into the chuppah.
Can you do it with her brother?
Huh? No. Ein habal mefer. She'ein habal nidre ishto unilaterally. In other words, that's the rule. There's going to be a constant rule. Ein ha'arus mefer ela b'shutz v'sa'av. Unlike the father, because don't forget, the father had full rights before she got engaged. So if she got engaged and now the husband is out of the picture, not the husband, the chassan, the arus, then she goes back full of little shusav. 1 second, step by step. Halacha yudal. Not a arusa, she made a neder. Now let's go. The shama aviyah, the father heard, but the others did not hear. This is key. The Rambam will himself say soon what will happen if the others heard. This case is the father heard, the others didn't hear. And the others gave her a get on that day. In other words, in whose jurisdiction is she right now? Only in the jurisdiction of her father. We said before that she returns to the jurisdiction of her father. But over here, she made the vow prior to her being only the jurisdiction of her father.
That's her being divorced.
Very good. So first of all, the father cannot do it. And now, she gets engaged to another guy. Even if that happened 100 times, the father and the last husband, the current chassan, even though the vow that she made, she did not make with the current chassan. She made it with the first husband. And he explains, there was never a moment that she was fully under her own rishus, and that will change everything, as the Rambam will spell out. Guys, remember every piece. You don't have to think about all the other cases. The Rambam is going to go through all of the scenarios. Shadayin hi b'rishus ha'ah, because she's a nara, And by the way, all of this is only because V'lo Shama Arusa. If Shama Arusa v'Nisgarsha, if Shama Arusa v'Nisgarsha, the father would not be able to be made for even with the current new chassan, as we'll see. As we'll see. But look, the Rambam is going to spell it out. Avol ha'isha hanasuya shenadra. Begin to contrast. If she's fully married and she makes an edit, and v'lehefel bayla, and v'gershu boy bayoim, means on the day that he had the power to be made for, he was not. He divorced her. That means that she fully entered her domain for a moment. And even if he remarried her on the same day, so it's on the day that he heard it. Now he wants to bring out this point that she never went into her own rishus. That's a case where she goes into her own rishus. Because once a woman is b'rishus atzma, no one can be made for her nedarim. So therefore, even though the same husband remarried her and boy bayoim shama, he cannot be made for the neder. Zikr not. Once she gets married, she fully left the rishus of the father. Yeah. Halt kapcha. Yeah, yes. The chiddush is even though she made an neder while she was still married to him before he divorced her the first time, and now she's bited in his rishus. Now, Allah Yud Gimel, we're going to see soon the V'lo Shama Arusa, how hearing and not being made versus not hearing at all is of tremendous significance. Halacha Yud Gimel, not in Morasa. So now she has the partnership, right? She's a Nara, she has a father, she has a chassan, she makes an edit. Neither of them heard. See, that's the not hearing. In Halacha Yud Aleph was the father heard and the others didn't hear. Now is not the father nor the husband heard. V'nis Garsha, she gets divorced. V'nis Arsal Achedim, Afilu La'acher Kama Yomim. Kishayishma Ha'av V'Ha'arus Ha'achrain, on the day that they hear, even though she didn't make the neder under this current husband, the neder that she made under the first artist. What will be the key? Okay, let's follow that, guys. If you hear something, and instead of you being made for it, you divorce your kala, that is like you were making it. That's you were confirming it. Once you confirm it, it becomes harder to take it away. So that's now we're getting into that. Okay. Now, not a Maros.
After, because the first artist never heard about
the
it.
first, not nor the father.
Had he heard about it?
See, the father can never divorce his daughter. So the rule is very good. When the father, when she makes a net that the father doesn't hear, he has yoim of when he hears. So nothing changed. Now when he hears, the husband, even though he didn't hear it, that's the key over here. No, it's if he would have heard it, and it would have not been made for, then we'll see later, then you can't be made for that neder. Okay, now, Hanara, Halacha Yudalad, Nana, Menasa Shenadra, Vishama of the Levadoi, the father heard, the husband did not hear it, and behave for law. What did we say before? That when one of the two partners are made for the neder, it weakens the neder. Okay, it's called your machlish the neder. Now, the others didn't even hear. She gets engaged on the same day. The same day is important because you only have that day, guys. Afilu lemeya, still avia va'arusa ha'achlen mefinin nedorel shenadra bepnei arus harishon shemeis koydem sheyishma. You know what you say? We don't say, David, that since the first chassan passed away, all of the power went to the father. If we were to say that, then the father was already made for it. You need to have the others. It doesn't have to be this others, but the later others can do it. Halacha tezva.
Only on that day because the father only
Yeah, because you only have one day. Shama others rishon mehefer omeis. That's going the opposite direction. The others rishon heard, and he was mefer. What happens when he was mefer, guys? It weakened the neder. To weaken the neder, the chiddush here will be, you didn't have a complete hafara. We said before that if she makes a vow while she was and then the husband passes away, she fully returns to the reshus aviyah, and the husband can be made for it. Not over here, because since he weakened it, there's so little neder left. You can't say that nisroikna l'reshus aviyah, but the neder is not completely nullified yet. Then the father hears it, Here, so now you have again the partners of via im ha'arus ha'achrin mifinin nidareha. But Shuki, what cannot happen? The father himself cannot be mefer. That's the chiddush here. Allah Zayin shama avia v'loy shama ha'arus umeis boy bayoim ha'arus oy sheshama gam ha'arus, and either he was mefer, not the father, just the arus, or he was quiet. Umeis boy bayoim. In other words, giving her a get is kiyum. Dying is not that. We can say that he would have been mefer, but he died. Now we do say nisroikna l'shus la'av. Right, the husband did not weaken it. Nisroikna l'shus la'av v'av yachal lahafer. Why is that? That's the key, because since the father heard before the death, see, that's the difference. If the father didn't hear before her death, so then his hafara, which weakens it, makes it so weak, it cannot go fully to the father. The arus is death, yeah. But in halakha tezayin, since the father heard, that's why we say that yes, this and now when she's not yet engaged again, the father can do his part. Yes, all by night. Shama ha'aras v'kiyim, but in the opposite, if the aras certainly was makayim and omeis by bayoim, oy sheshama v'shasak, omeis bayoim shala achrav. In other words, he can no longer be mefer. In other words, the father, the husband who was not mefer was megaladas. He doesn't want to be mefer. Now, eino av yochel lo hafer by himself.
Even if she gets engaged with somebody else.
No. When she's b'reshus ha'av. Halacha Yud Zayit Gerisho Arus Achash Shama. If he gives her a get, Harez is Safik. Ima Gerishan Kishtika v'Yafara Avim Abalo Achrain. No, it's the husband himself for sure cannot do it. The father cannot do it. Question is, can the father do it with someone else? With if she gets engaged again by Bayoim, or if the Gerushin is such a strong kiyum that then no longer can this be mufar? That's a doubt. Halacha Yud Ches. Shama ha'av hefer lo umeis ha'av. So the father heard when she was engaged, and the father was mefer her, and the father died, and then the chasen heard. Habal means the chasen. Afilu shama habal koidim shiyamus ha'av. We never say that there's going to be a moment where the chasen himself can be mefer. That's the big difference. The Baal can never be meifed unilaterally. The father sometimes could when she returns to his the rishus. Loin is right in the rishus labal. The ene yachal hafer lo oilam achar meisoav. No, you don't get a new father. You can get a new chasen. She'ein ha'aros meifed ella b'shutvis halacha yutes shoma aros v'hefer lam uvameis, like we said, and that weakens the neder. V'achar kach shoma ha'av. Right, so again, the father was machlish the neder. Umeis habal, the husband died before he heard. And guys, for sure, if he heard and he died, ein ha'av levada yachal lahafin nedarim. Elu sheniru la'aras rishon. Ella, there has to be an aras achrain. With another detail, the aras achrain, don't forget, there's the b'yayim shamai. If she gets engaged again, in other words, that's the word. Whenever the neder becomes weakened, we don't say nisroikna l'reshus ha'av. There has to be enough neder, and there you need that. But when she'll get engaged again, if she'll get engaged again for another reason, boy bayoim, then you can. Then the new chasen can be made, and then you have the shutras between the father and the chasen. Halacha nadra vehefer law of the levada v'lo shama ha'aretz. Now he took her into a chuppah. You would argue, 1 second, why not? Why not? I get it that you can say, David, that if she made an neder when she was a kal, you need to have 2 people. And then she gets engaged. If the father wasn't made for the husband can't do it. But here you would argue, the father did his part. If he would have done it prior to the chuppah, it would have been effective. A husband, if she would have made the neder after marriage, he can do it by himself. He's already a husband now. You would say, for sure he can do. No, you can't. That's the way. Even though the father was meifed, once she enters the chuppah, if the chassan was not meifed, the neder made prior to the chuppah, the baal cannot do it. Any yochel hafid, she'ein habal meifed nidrei arosasei achar sheniseis. We're speaking about the darim that she made prior to the chuppah. So what should a chassan do if he doesn't want his kala to have the darim? He should make sure that on the day of her chuppah, the father and the chassan prior to the chuppah should be made for the nadarim. Right before the father gives off his kala, that means he's walking his kala down to the chuppah.
Break the 7-day. You're not allowed to see her. You're not allowed to talk to her.
1 second. No. 1 second. No. You're not bringing anything. The way the father's walking his daughter down to the chuppah. So the last statement he's saying to his daughter is, "Tachter, you should have a happy life. You should have healthy kids." He says, "Biti kol nidarim shenadarte b'tich beis yarei mufar." Shalom. That's what he tells her. And now the chassan who picks her up right to the chuppah, not wow, you look so beautiful. I didn't see you for 7 days. No, he says, "Listen, all of the vows that you made, I'm exercising my right. That's ending now." By the way, it's not shaykh today because today we do the kedushin under the chuppah. Not shaykh, correct. But I'm saying if you do the kedushin separate. Actually, the concept of the shoe say, they are mufarim. That's a very important rule. By the way, the same thing is with the father. That's a big important rule. Wow. Oh, it's when you heard it, you have a 24-hour period. If you didn't hear it, then you didn't activate it, which is a good thing. So if the clock is not ticking, since you don't have to know about the neder, because you don't have to have a charot, you don't have to have a pesach, you have the koyach, you can just make a statement. If you have any vows, I'm made for it.
Make a blanket statement.
Make a blanket statement.
And that would cover not just all vows that she ever made that he had never heard of?
Yep. It's great.
Even if at that point he still hasn't heard of it.
Yep.
It works.
Yes, if he hears of it and he doesn't, and he's not made for it because he knows of it within 24 hours from him hearing it, then it's not 24 hours. B'yom Shammai will see, that means B'yom is, I think, the calendar date.
Yeah.
That not being made for it is being Mekayim. If he didn't hear it, you don't click, you don't start, you didn't hear it. But if you didn't hear it, he can be made for it. And even though he doesn't know it, obviously he didn't hear of it. Halacha chav beis, halach ha'ab im shluchi abal. The detail about chuppah. What does chuppah doesn't actually mean? The chuppah means if the father is going with the shluchi abal, it means he didn't fully give her over yet, because she's not under the reshus of the husband. Even though they're not under the chuppah yet, that's called she left the father's reshus. So it's not your classic chuppah. But don't think that since she was given over to the Baal or to the Shluchi Abal, the Chassan has the power to be made for unilaterally. He does not. The loy Abal yochalo hafresh ein Abal made for by koidman. If she's in his reshus, if she makes a neder now, he can be made for it unilaterally. Halacha chav gimel shemeres yavam. Afilu if the yavam did the rabbinic maimar, even if he's the only brother, eina meifa nidrei vimtai at all. His power is only ad sheyavei oleho. Now, does the father have the power? It depends. If she was only engaged, let's go. If she was only engaged, and the dinam of Yibum are even if she was only engaged, but the pshat is she became a widow. He's not like a chassan, even though there's a zika. When we said before that if a woman gets married and then she's out of the marriage, she doesn't go back to the reshus of Av. That's only if she was married. If she was only engaged, even though she's now a shemeres yavam, she returns fully to the reshus of her father. She's not like a nara meorasa. Simple, great. Halacha chafei. Nara she's avia. She's fully married, and now v'nis armala. even though she's a nara, she's not a bigeres. Or now she's in Isgarshem and Anasuyim. That's called a Yisayim B'chayo Av. She's in no one's jurisdiction. Even though she's still a nara, she's like any other full-fledged adult. If she makes a nether, you want to get rid of the nether, you go in front of a chacham yachid mumcha in front of 3 adyotis. Halacha chavav, final halacha in this perek. Nara ma'irasa shenadra. They only heard about it when she's a boigeres. Or she got married to him, and she's divorced, and now she's engaged. So now she's engaged to the second husband. With whom he had the power previously for her to be made for b'shutas. And she's not nichnas l'reshus habal for him to do it alone. So therefore, the chassan can never nullify the vow if it's not in partnership with the father. There's no partner father because she left the reshus aviyah. This vow cannot be mufar, not by the father, not by the baal. She's like any other person. She can make hataras nadorim, but she's out of this option of hafar. Final Perek of today, Perek Yud Beis, which is shorter, as 21 halachas. It's a lot simpler. You see, Perek Chaf Aleph had all of these nuanced cases. Perek Yud Aleph of the father heard, the chassan didn't hear, the chassan did hear. The Sroikna l'Reshus Lavia, loy Nisroikna l'Reshus Lavia. Here we're simply saying, we're pointing out the difference of the power of the father and the different power of the husband. The B'yoim Shammai exists, but what type of nadarim really are different, and the husband's power of afara is really much more limited. On the other hand, when we learned Tataras nadarim, we had a very big klal. You can only be matar a neder that's chal. So if a guy says, I'm making a neder that from next month, from Chodesh Tishrei, all of the meat in the world is asar ani for 30 days. Today we're Yud Aleph Elul. I cannot be matar the neder now. You can only be matar a neder prior to the neder being chal. We're going to see that by hafaras nadarim, they could be mefer the neder even prior to it being chal. Okay. And we're going to learn a little bit about their lack of hafara, which is considered the kiyum, and what effect does that have. Chevra, beginning with halacha aleph, says the Rambam, kol hanadorim b'hashvuos. Kol means no matter what the vow was about, the father has the power to be made for it. Right? He can nullify it. But when? Only on the day that he heard it.
Is it only that day or 24 hours?
We'll see in a moment. Shenemar, as it says, kol nidorel ve'esorel. The word isa goes on a shvua, and the limit is on the word kol. We don't limit what the vow was about. Doesn't matter. She's not yet a begeres. The father can be made for the net. Aval abal eina mefer elon kol nidorim shvuos. Either sheyesh bahem mishum inoy nefesh, that they involve some sort of personal aggravation. Okay, I won't eat today. It's aggravating her. You're going to have an aggravated wife, so it affects you somehow. They are things that are considered dvarim shebeinoi lebeina, matters that affect somehow the marriage relationship, as the Rambam will give examples. That she's not going to put on the eye makeup, she's not going to put on jewelry. You can say, I don't want to have a wife that's a menovelas. Shenemar bein ish leishli. Halacha beis. Uma bein nedarim sheyesh beim inu nefesh ledvarim shebeinoi lebeina. Forget the way I said it. If she's aggravated, it's going to bother him. So just give one category. There's a difference. Shanadarim that are going to be in the category that there's inu nefesh. Not only can he be made for the neder regarding himself, he can revoke the neder for other people as well. One example will be, there are many examples, that when he's meifer and then he divorces her, the neder is not going to go back into effect. It's mufar. But shebei noi lebeina, even though the husband, b'yoim shamai, can be meifer it, he can only be meifer the part that affects him and not that affects other people. And you'll have many examples. So first of all, Allah Gimel is going to be the category of Inu Nefesh. Like Inu Nefesh, right, his power of Afar is bigger because once he's made for it, she's not down. For example, Nadra Shalelechel Basar. It's called Inu Nefesh. Made for law, and not only that, means even if he's made for it and he divorces her, she's no longer bound by it. Asra Aleha Tashmish Kol Isha Ba'olam. That's called dvarim shebeino lebeino. So he can be made for it, but only regarding their intimacy. But the part of her neder, we don't say over here neder shuhuter michlale hutar kule. We don't say that. Here it's not hatara. Here it's hafara. Then yofer chelkoi and v'tia mishamashtu. But if he predeceases her, or if he divorces her, she's still bound by the neder, not to have tashmish with any other man. Doesn't what inoi personal aggravation doesn't mean only big aggravation. Or even an inu that's lefisha hakol mefarabal halacha hated, for example. You can argue it's only today, big deal. No candy today. Or rikma means beautiful garments. In all of these cases, that's called, guys, inui nefesh. Okay? Or that's called dvarim shebeino lebeino when it comes to jewelry or perfume. Mefer. You would think that what? It's my chol. No, it's inui nefesh. You know why? Because if you don't have any other food other than this, you will eat this. So there is a small potential inui nefesh. Halacha, in contrast, if she has 2 loaves of bread and she makes an neder not to have neither of them. So guys, not having no bread is inui nefesh. If you have 1 loaf and you can't have the other, there's no inui nefesh. Interesting. We're not speaking about obese people. So here, and therefore, make for his power, it's inui nefesh, is only to revoke the vow from 1 loaf and not the vow from the other. Not to eat figs of this country. Why is it dvarim shebeino lebeino? Interesting. Not inui nefesh, because here it's about his need of getting for her food from imported food. And once we put it into the category of beino lebeino, his power is only vis-a-vis him. He's only nullifying his need of bringing him from another country. But if it's already here, halacha has notes. It's very important to know: is it inui nefesh? Is it dvarim shebeino lebeino? Halacha 8. She took an oath. She took an oath not to benefit from people. She didn't specify I can't benefit from my husband. Because don't forget, if she cannot benefit from him, no, he can nullify the oath from everyone. Because you can, a second, only nullify your part. If she will only now be allowed to have enough from him and not from anyone else, that's too much burden on the husband. Oh, this is great. She takes a vow forbidding herself from benefiting from an entire nation, like from all the Eden or from all the Ishmaelim. We don't say, well, she can benefit from him, but that puts an extra burden on her husband. Everything will be on him. Halacha 9. The pleasure from intimacy with me is forbidden upon you. She doesn't even have to nullify it because she's meshubah to him. By the way, this is a 2-way street.
It never takes place.
Never takes place. It's not yours. And that's both ways. I mean, if the husband says, he doesn't have the right. God was machayiv a man to be intimate with his wife. It's not his to aser. Yeah, but if she tells him, pleasure from intimacy with you is forbidden on me, not I'm forbidden on you. Your hanas forbidden on me, then you have to be made for the nether. Now, of course, he can be made for the nether, but you have to be made for the nether. No, it is a asr l'shamsha because she'ein machil and adam davar asr loy. Halacha Amra, if she says Yikdushu Yadai to God Almighty, now her hands are meshubah to him, Again, similar to halacha test, something that there is something which marriage is meshabed. In either direction, no party can ask that which is meshubed. It's not yours to prohibit. Now the question will be, hold on. Yikdushu yodai lo isaya means my hands are hegdish. Isn't there a rule that hegdish is mitzime de shibud? That's the question. Hashikrur means if a servant was designated as collateral, and then the master emancipated the servant, you know what it does? It removes him from that lien. Same thing with chametz. If a Jew used his chametz to be liened to guarantee a debt he has to a goy, when Pesach comes, it removes that lien, and the key here is hegdish. Hegdish means if I have some of my property that's liened to a debt, if I'm magdish it, it removes the lien. So you would think, yes, her hands are meshubah to him, but she was magdish it. That should trump the shibud. Here is different, an exception. Why is that? Because her obligation of Masa Yodel to him to begin with is only midrabanan, and this is from the certain cases where the rabbanan is even more chamer than adorai. So, wow. Now, 1 second. Nevertheless, here, unlike by the intimacy, he has to be mefer because Shema Yigar Shena, and then the Tia Asura Lachser Loi, because you can't, because you're entering a marriage in which benefiting from her Masa Yodeha will become, then it will go into effect.
Once she leaves his rishus, he can't be made for it.
He can't be made for it anymore. If she doesn't like his family, your father, right, cannot benefit from me. She makes such a vow. Such a vow we cannot nullify. Because this is not Inoi, Amachayi, she's good riddance of his shver and of the brother-in-law, and that's not Dvarim Shebeinu Lebeinu. If she says I can't benefit from a whole nation, it becomes very burdensome on the husband. She can't benefit from all of these people, then I'm going to have more responsibility. She's specifying just certain individuals. It's not going to change. It's not going to put more burden on him. I'm not going to give water in front of your behemoth. And she's only chayiv to feed. If I'm not mistaken, she's only chayiv to give food to the horse that he rides on. So she has no shibud to that. Or I'm not going to give teven lefnei bekarcha. Right, teven she has to give in front of his sus, we learned, but not in front of his cattle. So the husband cannot be made for it. Unlike hataras nadarim, you can only be matan and nether if it already went into effect. Hataras nadarim can go prior. For example, she didn't yet go, that means she didn't activate the net, that he can be made for right away. If they are deaf, they didn't hear. Like we learned before in the end of the last chapter, right? Even though you don't know about it, but it's in the Nadarim that if you would hear, you would hear. In other words, it's shaykh for you to hear. Only Haroy Lishmaya, then we say, Ein Hashmiya Ma'akevas Bay. But if your mom is deaf, you lost that entire power. Halacha 14. Hashoita, Ein Mefer, a person who's mentally not competent, whether it's the father, whether it's the husband. That's a funny one. She'll make a neder, the husband will be Mefer. She'll say, no, you're bist Hashoita. All right. Hakoten ein lo issues. Lefikar chena mefer. Habal mefer nidrei shtei noshav with one swoop statement. Ha'ab mefer nidrei shtei benaisav in one sweep statement. Halacha tezvav hafaras nadarim. Oh, when we said biyoim shamay, what does it mean biyoim shamay? Biyoim shamay that Rambam paskins, it means a calendar day, not 24 hours. Kol hayoim. Ve'eino me'es la'es. For example, if she made a neder in the beginning of a Leil, we call the Sunday night, Leil Sheni, he can be made for the whole night and the whole day. If she makes the neder on Monday morning, he can be made for Monday day. If she makes a neder at the end of Monday, he can only be made for it until it gets dark. That's a very small window. The Torah writes me yoim el yoim from day to the next day. Is that not mashmaps, a 24-hour period? Yeah. It means that there could be a time where you have a 24-hour period. And that is that if she made a neder at night, he can be made for it that whole night. Or at least if she makes it that day in the morning, at least he has the whole day. That's the meaning of the words miyoim el yoim, and not 24 hours. Nadra v'shohasa kami yomim. She made a neder today. Many days went by, but the father never heard about it. The husband never heard about it. Not a problem. Harezem mefer b'yoim shamay u'keilu nadra be'esha shama, as it says b'yoim shamay, and v'loy b'yoim nadra bulvad. Now halacha yud zayin nara hamurasa. We're going back to this unique. Not a hamurasa, right? That she's under a joint jurisdiction, and she made an edit, and b'shama v'yavei for long. On the day, wow, guys, when there's joint and the father heard, then the husband has to join. And if he didn't hear, I'm sorry.
The father should have told the husband.
Very good. You know, the emphasis is the father's b'yom shamay, and then the pasuk says and the shama isha b'yom shamay. So from this juxtaposition, Chazal learned we don't have a new b'yom shamay for the arus. Only b'yom shamay ha'av. Who adin im shama ha'arus v'hefer, and only after many days shama ha'av. And the father was made for. In other words, once you have partners, if one of them had the activation of the yoim, goes for both. The psukim that recorded in Bamidbar Lamed psukim matos vav and ches, vav zayin ches, because it says in psukim yud aleph and yud beis, which is almost right afterwards. The im beish isan adara means now she's married. If the Torah begins in pasuk yud aleph, marriage, that implies that the psukim prior to psukim yud aleph yud beis was speaking about only engaged. Is only Yarus.
So the point is that the father and the Arus always have to be made for on the same day?
No, 1 second. If none of them heard, we said they can be made for. That's why before the chuppah they can be made for.
Okay.
But once one of them heard,
Yeah.
so now the day was activated for one, it automatically is activated for the other.
So if they both never heard, they can both be made for on different days.
Probably. If they both didn't hear them because there's no b'yom yet. Very good. Halacha yudches, probably. Very good. Hashama ha'av, oy habal, and they were quiet, not because they didn't want to nullify it, but they letzara. They wanted her to say, oh my God, she thought that I'm going to be mefer. Oh, I'm not. He was really going to be made for it later. He didn't want to be mekayim it. Tough luck. His silence is mekayim the neder regardless his intent. And she doesn't even know that they nullified it. Another scenario. Really, there's no neder. She's not aware of it. It's like you have a chaticha. You think it's chazit when it's not. And you eat it, God forbid. So since de facto there was no neder, harei patura. Even though she was nischav and leisur. Hoyel v'nasa ha'eter patura. Now on that, the Torah says, V'Hashem yislach lo, ki heini v'ya'isa. Now it's a double limud. On one hand, since the father prevented it from her, she's already forgiven. And then there's the drasha is that even though she's not going to get malchus, she needs to be forgiven because she didn't know that. Independent, she gets makas mardus. Umaken oisa makas mardus nations chavel isur. Halacha 19. Nodra overal nidra koydem sheyafar lavi or bayla. She takes a vow and she violated the vow. Oh, that's the end. That's the correction I needed to make. What's hataras nadarim we learned that if a guy violated his vow and then he's matan eden, as long as he did not finalize or begin at least the punishment, you can be matan eden and you're no longer chayv malchus. Not here. Here, if she violated it, and the father and the husband was mefer, too late. Whether it's malchus, whether it's a carbon. He's speaking about carbon because we're putting together Nedarim and Shavuos. By Nedarim, it's a very simple malchus. Always, only, amazing. By Shavuos, you have to know, remember the 4 categories and v'chuli. Halacha chav, shama nidra v'shasek. Why? Mipnei shelo yichoyo yodeya sheyesh lo av. Oila balo hafer. He didn't know that he's that ability. He didn't know the din. He didn't know the din. Or he knew that he has the power to be made for neder, but he didn't think that such a neder even needs to be mufar. Like we learned before, certain nedarim don't need to be mufar. In other words, he didn't do his act of afara because of a lack of knowledge. And after, then he got knowledge. He came to learn the Rambam today. Now, I could be mefer. We don't say, I'm sorry, it's no longer on the day that you heard. You have the day. How great is that? The day begins from when you know you could be mefer. Kabbalah. Hanei ze yofed. Usha'asi de yosei ki'ilu hi shas haneder. Oishash me yosei. And you have one day. What does one day mean? We already learned. Kol hayom. If you learn the Rambam today at 6:30 in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, then you have until it gets dark. If you learn the 3 Prakamana, you learn it late, you'll have a little bit of time. But the idea is the Shemiyah. Listening means knowing the din also. Final halacha chafalo. Nodra ishtoi. You heard your wife make a vow, and you thought your daughter made a vow, and your daughter is still a nara, and you were made for it, but you didn't know for whom. Even though you have the right to be made for the nadarim of your wife, you have the right to be made for the nadarim of your daughter, or you knew who, but you didn't know what. The neder was to be a nazir. The husband or the father thought the neder was to bring a carbon, and the hefer la al dash another carbon, or she made a prohibition not to eat ta'ena. He thought she made a neder against another, and when he made the hafara, he was for another. Now he has the right to be made for both. Guys, he doesn't lose it. In other words, it was ineffective. But from when he'll become knowledgeable what really was the Metzias, then the Biyoim Shomi kicks in and he has to do it. You have to know. Who's the person? L'shem hanideres hazois. Your hafar has to be pointed towards the right person and pointed towards the correct neder that they made. How do we know that? From the word oisa, the father did not prevent her. In other words, you have to prevent her. You have to know. And even though you can do it to your wife and you can do it to your daughter, you have to know who you made for. And when it says v'shama or vias nidra, what does v'shama mean? It means achiyeda is a neder nedara. Just like we said, you know the thing, you have to know what. To be continued.